Welcome to Trade Ideas. I'm Jake Merl, sitting down with Big Chonis of Chonis Trading. Great to have you on the show for your very first Real Vision interview.
Jake, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Since it's Crypto Week here at Real Vision, we'd love to get your view on Bitcoin and the different scenarios you see unfolding over the weeks and months to come. But before we do so, can you please review your background, who you are, and what you do at Chonis Trading?
Absolutely. I've been interested in stocks and trading for about a decade now. The past 3 years, though, I've been really focused on crypto, and that's really the focus of my trading as well. I'm also a featured contributor to Bitcoin Live, which is a wonderful subscription-based educational platform where I put out content weekly with other really great like-minded traders. And I also do personalized mentoring with online with students to give them a sense of basic TA disciplines. And of course, I'm also very active on Twitter and YouTube.
So you mentioned your methodology is mostly based on technical analysis. So which indicators and tools are you looking at right now?
The past few months of Bitcoin has been just tremendous price action, really ever since we broke out of our ascending triangle around $4,000. Bitcoin is just going up and up with higher lows and higher highs. When we're in a market like this, a very aggressive bull stance right now, I prefer using higher time frame charts, higher time frame indicators, whether it be 3-day up to a weekly chart, to give me more of a bias of what the options of price action can be, what the more meaningful support areas are, and then what are reasonable, achievable bull targets. In this particular price action, I'm very interested in more of a longer term, higher time frame charts.
So what exactly are you looking at? Which specific charts are you most interested in right now?
So with Bitcoin here, we're at a very interesting level. We're over 9,000. We've been holding that for a couple days here. And the big question is, can Bitcoin really approach the $10,000 area? This was an area which stopped a bullish move a year ago when we got basically stopped just under 10K. And ever since then, we've basically been in this lower lows market here. So the psychological barrier of $10,000, just the achievement in itself. And if we were able to get Bitcoin above 10K, we really have to start asking the question, is the bear market truly over? Is this that price level that will say we're basically out of the danger zone, that the low is in, and we're only kind of moving up from here? My feeling on this is we can definitely break through 10K. My biggest thing I want to see accomplished is to have a monthly close above $10,000. We could definitely close the week out or the day out with a break of 10K, but a really meaningful monthly candle close above $10,000, in my opinion, would kind of be that thing that says to me, okay, maybe we might break 10K again and go lower, but the 3150 area we hit back in December of 2018, I would have a lot more confidence that that is the now new local bottom of Bitcoin, where we may range for quite a while here as we head into the next part of the year here. We have to also understand that Bitcoin has 3x basically since our 3150 area here. So without a real meaningful pullback, and Bitcoin has a way of doing that. We've had 4 or 5 major pullbacks in Bitcoin's price action, 70% to 90%. And we've had over a dozen, 30% pullbacks along the way. So these can be buying opportunities. I personally would not FOMO into a break of 10K, but there will be opportunities if you feel you've missed the boat to get into Bitcoin at a lower price and use that as an opportunity to do so.
So in terms of the technical analysis, can you just take a deeper dive for us? I know you're looking at a few different indicators, so if you could walk us through the charts you brought along, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So I brought along a couple charts here. I'm a big fan of trying to look in the past and see how it can translate to the future. I call those fractals. So basically, I'm a big proponent of analyzing previous bear markets of Bitcoin's history and what can that tell us. So in 2014 or the end of 2013, Bitcoin hit $1,000. And then for a year, it basically went from $1,000 to about $150. That was your big pullback there. Once it hit that bottom, it didn't just start on its bull run again. We had 10 more months of this consolidation period, 150 to 350 back to 200 until that real breakout kind of actually happened. So I brought a few scenarios here. I'll start with the bearish one here. So in 2013, we had this really strong pullback from $1,000 all the way up down to $350 or so. Then we had a really nice bounce, and that brought the price action about $600. Now that hit the 382 Fibonacci extension, basically from top to the bottom, and couldn't get past that. And once that happened, the bear market continued, and we actually ended up putting up lower lows. We fast forward to where we are right now in the Bitcoin price action, and Bitcoin is right at, once again, the 382 Fibonacci resistance if you start from our 2017 top to our current bottom we have now around 3150. So very similar there. So if this area of 382 resistance around $9,400 is actually as solid of resistance as what we've seen in the past, this could be our local top, and we could basically be drifting down lower and lower and potentially put in that bear scenario where we may even retest the 3Ks once again. I have a bullish scenario. Now, the bullish scenario basically is after the 2014-2015 bear market, we had this consolidation period when we did hit our bottom. It's about 10 months where we hovered and we actually put in just a higher low from 150 to about 170 or 180. Once we hit that 170, 180 area, we had this incredible upthrust of Bitcoin bullish price action, bringing the price action all the way up to about $500 there. And this was really the beginning of the next phase of the bull market. We could really say that was officially over. But when it hit that point, it had this vicious 40% pullback. Now, if we had a 40% pullback in our price action right here, that kind of takes us back down to that $5,700 to $5,500 area. Bitcoin back in 2015, 2016 found the support in our golden pocket, our 61 to 65% retracement there. That golden pocket now does put us right in that $5,500, $5,700 area, and an ideal area to find support, bounce hard, and then continue that bull market process. I have another cool chart where I use my VPVR. Volume price visual range. This basically gives us a representation of the price action within a specific window of price history. And what we see on this is we have these things called windows, where we have areas of very limited price history, where Bitcoin either crashes through very quickly or rises up very quickly. And those are defined here by these kind of open gaps in the price. The larger areas of price action we see here is right around the 4K area. This represented the dump that basically brought Bitcoin down from 4K to almost 3K. And then the big explosive bullish move we had when we busted out of 4K and we broke through our ascending and triangle pattern. So we see that right now as a major area of support. Between that area and $6,400, there's a gap. There's basically a gap all through the 5Ks where there's very limited price action and price history. This means that if the price action was to get back into that area, that's where you could fall through very quickly. So ideally, you'd want to see the price get back into that area, find that historical support, and then engage higher. I'll point out one more thing about this chart that you will also notice there's a decent sized window. Let's call it under $2,400 to about $1,500. And that happened with Bitcoin when it rose on its parabolic move of 2016 and 2017 extremely fast from 1K to basically 3K in a matter of weeks or so. So I keep it in the back of my head that I like to see the gaps in the VPVR get filled, and there's a big one down there. We have to acknowledge that most of the price action of Bitcoin, most of the accumulation of price action of Bitcoin happens sub $1,000. That's where all the big money and the smart money really got into Bitcoin. So there are open areas where the price action can move very freely and quickly, and I would like to see those areas get filled to basically establish a stronger base of support. And my last chart here is kind of the fun one, how I describe where we are in this overall market. So we have our summit Bitcoin 20K, okay, and we have our base camp Bitcoin 3150. And we take a Fibonacci from the top to the bottom. Our first target, our first camp one is the 236. Okay, that was around $7,000. We hit it. We did find initial resistance, and then we just blasted right through that. Okay, so in my head here, wow, 7K, the 236, that's got to be strong support. We've been above it for several weeks now, and now we're sandwiched between the 236 and the 382. If we can maintain support on the 236, and if we can break through the 382, which is right around $9,400, I have to basically put in play the chance we can go to our next Fibonacci range of resistance right in our golden pocket area, and that's around $13,000 Bitcoin. So a close, especially a weekly close, above the 382, putting us above $9,400, does put that next fib resistance in play. But here's the other side of that. If the 382 continues to be very strong resistance, if we're unable to get above it at the end of this month, at the end of the next few weeks here, and it really shows its strong resistance, the bears will begin to assert that, and they're going to put pressure on the market there. And they're going to try and drive the price down to challenge the 236 as support. How strong is this support really? Okay. We lose the 236 support around 7K, and then everything down, in my opinion, is open season and potential of being hit.
So based on the technical analysis you just laid out, how do you suggest traders play the current environment?
So I have a short-term bias that I don't want to say that Bitcoin has topped off here, okay, because a lot of people have been saying that, including myself, for past several weeks, and Bitcoin just laughs and blows right through your near-term resistances. I would be very surprised, though, if we're able to blast through 10K in the next few weeks. Definitely possible, and we've seen it happen before, but you have to realize that with that occurrence, are people that loaded Bitcoin, in the 5K, 6K, 7K, are they going to be now taking profit? Because they then feel, wow, this was a great run, but it's got to pull back sometime. And historically, Bitcoin always does give you that 30 to 40, maybe even more percent pullback opportunity that you can then re-engage the market. I do have a longer term perspective, though, and that's kind of the chart I have here, which is basically the road to $100,000 Bitcoin. And a lot of this has to do with the halvening, which basically when you mine Bitcoin, you get a reward, and that block reward basically is cut in half every 4 years. We're a little under a year away from our next halvening. The past two halvenings have basically been in the middle of the peak to trough of the previous market cycle, which means next May should be somewhere near the middle of the bear market to the next bull market blow off top, which means I feel the next year is a year of consolidation and accumulation, where I do not expect Bitcoin to go to all-time high 20K in the next few months, or even in the next half a year or so, until we get into the 2020s and closer to the halvening. Entering every previous halvening, Bitcoin has been in an uptrend. It wasn't necessarily a massive bullish uptrend, but it was in an uptrend. And as we get closer and closer to the halvening, the more confident I will feel that the low, that the bottom is truly in.
So super bullish in the long run and kind of cautious in the short run here. We'll see how it plays out. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
So Big Chonis is bullish on Bitcoin. He thinks it will head much higher in the long run. However, he's cautious in the short run and recommends staying away at current levels. He thinks there will be a better buying opportunity in the near future. On the flip side, a weekly close above 9,400 and a monthly close above 10,000 could lead to a short-term move higher to 13,000. That was Big Chonis of Chonis Trading, and for Real Vision, I'm Jake Merl.